Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
We're here today on the Hug campus in Pine River, Minnesota to explore solar energy. So come on along, we'll see what we find out. In here, we've got a very large greenhouse that was constructed for the sole purpose of collecting passive solar energy. To describe what passive solar energy is Ryan Hunt from Hunt Utilities Group here. Ryan, if you want to elaborate a little bit on passive solar and what role it plays here in the greenhouse.
Sure, I was just soaking up some of the passive solar. Cats love passive solar. They curl up in a sunbeam and they get warmed, and that's the basic idea of what passive solar is. It's just sunlight, energy from the sun, coming in your windows and warming things up. In fact, it's working so well here today, this black shirt might have been a bad idea. The basic idea is that you can design your home and buildings to capture a lot more of this passive solar by putting windows to the south, because in the winter when you need the sun is low into the south, and because it's low it can shine right in your windows. Problem is, in the summer you don't want that heat. Luckily the sun is way up high and shines down on your roof a lot more than on your windows. So if you make your roof a little larger, put a little overhang on them, it helps protect the windows and you don't have as much heating. That's one of the advantages of passive solar, is that when the sun is coming in and just being absorbed, there's no solar panels and fans and blowers and pumps and water tanks and water. There's none of that. It's easy to maintain. It just works and it's warm and it's comfortable.
So can you elaborate a little bit about the windows and their orientation on a building?
Sure. Windows in a building are one of the weak spots in the performance of the building. So in a passive solar home, the insulation is important. The weak spot in the insulation is the windows. Those windows are about R3 when the rest of your walls are like R19. And around here we have R50 walls. So we've been paying close attention to what to do about the windows. One thing you really want to do is optimize the windows to the south and maybe not have as many windows in the other directions, so you're losing less heat.
Ryan, can you talk a little bit about window construction and kind of give the viewers a little better understanding of what U value and R value is in a window?
Yeah, a lot of people have questions about windows. And the most important thing to look at when you're looking for a window is its U value. The U value is a measure of how much heat gets through the window. So you want as small a U value as possible. The U value is like the opposite of the R value in your walls. In the R value in the walls, you want it as high as possible, with an average new home being about R19 or 20. Average new window is about 3 for a double pane. Now, when you're looking at windows, there's double panes, where there's 2 layers of glass with an inert gas in between it, and so it gives you about a U value of about 0.3, or an R value of about 3. Then there's triple pane windows. Those can have R values of up to about 5, but they're significantly more expensive.
I think it'd be kind of important to point out that it's January 19th, and last night we had temperatures that were below 0, and it's mid-morning. It's pretty darn hot in here.
I'm thinking this black shirt might have been a mistake.
Quite a testament to 18 below 0 last night, and somewhere in the neighborhood of about 80 degrees in the greenhouse here. Definitely something saying that passive solar heat is working here.
We've even had to open up the vent windows.
And on a sunny day here, those windows will stay open until later in the afternoon, simply because it would be well over 100 degrees in the greenhouse here if we did not bleed some of this heat. It gets so incredibly warm in here, even though outside we have 2 feet of snow on the ground and the temperatures are in the single digits. So we go from northern Minnesota to Jamaica just through walking through a door. It's an incredible experience to experience passive solar heat in a greenhouse. Well, now that we've talked about passive solar in the greenhouse here, can we talk a little bit about active solar in the structure here and its features and what active solar does for a building?
Sure. The greenhouse that we're in uses some attributes of passive solar. The sun comes in and warms it up, but it warms it up so well that we're actually using it as an active solar. And the distinction is that in active solar systems, you are pulling the heat mechanically away from where it is and storing it somewhere. In this case, the heat is rising up to the top of the greenhouse. It's being pulled through extra solar panels that are above the greenhouse on the south side, and then down through the ductwork and down under the floor. Underneath the floor, there's about 10 miles of 4-inch pipe that transfer the heat into about 17 million pounds of earth. So on a sunny winter day, this building can store away about, in 5 sunny hours, it can store away enough heat to exist on keep it warm for the next 5 days.
That's incredible. So the mechanical part of it helps utilize the passive solar, making it an active system. Obviously, it's pretty hot in here. Active is kind of helping us to distribute it through the building and possibly store some heat. And speaking of storing heat, could we elaborate just a little bit? And I've heard this term before, a heat sink. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. A heat sink is anything that absorbs a lot of heat into it. In this building, we're actually sinking the heat down in the earth underneath the floor, and that heat conducts up naturally through the floor and keeps the floor warm. It's like a big, elaborate solar heated floor.
Well, now that we've talked about passive solar and active solar, can we take a look at some of the features here that make this structure active solar?
Sure, let's take a look.
All right, let's take a walk.
So the hot air in this greenhouse rises up to the top and it gets pulled through the filters that lead into the solar panels up above the greenhouse walls. The solar panels heat the air to about 150 degrees, and then it's pulled through these ducts down into the fan, and then the fan pushes it down underneath the floor through the tubes into the heat storage, and that 150 degree air comes back at about floor temperature right here, about 65 to 70. So it went from about 150 degrees when it went in to about 65 degrees where it comes out here, and that heat is stored under the floor and is used to heat the building.
Wow. So now that we've figured out all the internal structure here, can we take a look at the panels that actually produce all this heat? I believe they're outside of the building, aren't they?
Yeah, so take a look.
Great. Well, Ryan, now that we're outside here, can you talk a little bit about what's on the front of the building here?
Sure. First, talk a little bit about how cold it is. Anyway, on the building we have 74 solar collectors made by the Rural Renewable Energy Alliance right here in this building. This is our manifesting shop building, and it's about 15,000 square feet, and these panels are designed to heat it entirely.
Wow.
The east half is over the greenhouse where we were just at, and the panels above there boost the temperature of the hot air in the greenhouse. On the west half, instead of a greenhouse, we have more solar panels. So it's like 2 solar panels together.
Sure.
In both cases, the hot air is blown down underneath the building through those tubes, and the heat is stored away for when the sun doesn't shine.
Yeah, and we need it on a day like today because it is cold outside.
That wind is nasty. It's 3 degrees at the airport. The sun is warm, everything else is cold.
Well, Ryan, we took a look at the solar thermal panels over on the other building, and we're at this building here. Want to explain what's going on in this house here?
Sure, this is our ARC 08 home. It's a kind of a prototype home of putting together everything we've learned for ultra efficiency. The panels you see on here are the hot water panels, as opposed to the hot air panels on the manifesting shop. The sun will be heating water for any hot water use. It'll be basically just supplementing the water heater in the building. So it'll be providing hot water for showers and washing dishes and hands. Basically anything you use hot water for.
Great.
The rest of the building is heated in combination, pretty much passive solar with an electric backup.
So this structure utilizes both passive and active solar.
Correct.
We talked about the solar thermal panels, and we talked about solar hot water. Can you elaborate a little bit on the differences and the advantages of each?
Sure. The hot water panels heat the hot water. They require pumps, and in a climate like this, antifreeze. So there's some complication involved, but it's free energy from the sun. The hot air panels heat air and are most useful for heating the air in a building, for providing space heating in a building.
As we can see, this is a pretty large structure, so passive and active solar are very important to heat a building like this and utilize the insulation that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, this building has 12-inch thick foam walls for super insulated performance, and we've done something unique with the windows. Let's go take a look.
Great. Whew, it's cold out there. It sure is nice in here. Let's shut our warm stuff. A little bit of hat hair there. Let's talk about this, Ryan. It's really nice in here compared to outside. Can we elaborate a little bit on the garage here?
Yeah, this garage gives me garage envy. This is the only spot on campus that is entirely passive solar heated. And it doesn't get any colder than the high 40s, no matter how cold it is outside in the winter.
Wow. Now it looks like the vehicles really enjoy that because all the salt is laying on the concrete here, and they're all clean. To work in the garage, it looks like the temperature's about 50 degrees. It'd be fantastic to do some of your chores out in the garage here.
Yeah, it's well lit from the south windows here, which also are the only thing letting heat into this space. The heat comes in, just warms up the air, soaks into the floor, and at night it just stays warm.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's great. To bring the trash out would be wonderful. You don't have to get all bundled up to do your house chores.
So Jim, here's a sample of the twin wall polycarbonate. It's 6 millimeters thick and has layer on each side and some corrugations in between, and it gives really good insulation value for the amount of sun that it lets in.
Now I noticed that this stuff is hollow compared to a piece of solid glass. Can you talk about why it's important to have that hollow space?
Yeah, the hollow space provides a static air layer, which provides better insulation value.
Wonderful.
Kind of like a twin pane window.
If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org. If you have segment ideas pertaining to North Central Minnesota, contact us at legacy@lptv.org. Common Ground is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund by the vote of the people on November 4th, 2008.